everybody, it's Jasmine with Black Flower Co Pro, and today we're going to talk about the oil infusions. Okay, I'm going to show you guys how to do them, but more so this is going to be me telling you about them, why they are really good to use in your recipes, and a little bit of just knowing the ropes of how they work. An oil infusion is basically herbs with oil. They sit here for about, depending on what method you use, generally they can take a few weeks, but they do take time because it's an herbal extraction. So normally your fluid starts out pretty clear and then it turns a nice golden yellow, and also depending on what herbs you use. It's basically like a tea, but with oil and herbs. So generally the more herbs you put in, the more concentrated your mixture will get. I also use essential oils in my infusions just to give them that much more power. It's kind of like a double whammy, if you will. It's jam-packed. This is a rose one, just a simple rose oil, which I'm going to be showing you how to recreate today. And generally I will recommend that whenever you're doing oil infusions, you normally want to have like at least like 75% herbs. This is a personal one. I didn't have that, but if you do want to use less, or like half and half like I did here, then I just recommend letting them sit for longer. So instead of a minimum of 6 weeks, if you're doing the solar infusion method, if you're gonna have lesser herbs, I'd wait at least a minimum to have a good strong herbal infusion about 12 weeks. So double the time minimum, just so that you have the herbs combining in there. So I have this jar. This is for my rose oil, simple rose oil. This is a good classic to have. I love herbs. I love roses for the face and the hair. They're generally all around good. They really, when it comes to hair, it softens and gives your hair a lot of shine. And when it comes to your skin and your face, it smooths out your skin and gives you a more even tone, more softer skin, more looking. It's great. And if you've ever shopped with me for Black Flower Co, I actually use quite a few different herbal infusions for some of my products. One of my best ones, and this is another type of jar you can infuse in. This one's big, especially because if you didn't know, I'm currently pregnant. I have one that's called Recovery. This is a CBD serum, but this has herbs like white willow bark, witch hazel, evening primrose, calendula, chamomile. It has rose in it too, hibiscus, and it's infused in olive oil. And this is going to be for during pregnancy. I also have mango butter in this one, and I'll tell you about that in a second. But this also has CBD in it. It's for pregnancy. It's for women who struggle with any sort of menstrual cramps or anything like that, like I have throughout my life. It also is great for labor and delivery and for postpartum healing. It helps with the pain. It has herbs in here to help with the healing properties. You can put it directly, even for major surgeries. I've had clients that have used this and have raved about how much it helps to heal and how much it helps with pain management. And it helped me actually through the laboring process to take the edge, and not numb you, but take the edge off of the pain when it was getting to a really high boiling point where I felt like I couldn't handle it. And it helped my mood to improve because my birth was a little bit stressful. But this kind of jar is the best kind that you can use. You can get these at Walmart, and basically, even though you're using like the heat from the sun, it protects your herbs on the inside from getting too much UV damage. So amber jars are really good, especially for sun infusing. And these jars are pretty good, but you have to remember, I would say if you're doing solar infusion, you're gonna put these outside and then let them get a few hours in the sun, about 2 to 3 days a week for like 6 hours, a few hours out in the day, and then you bring them back in and store them in a relatively cool, dry place. And so herbal infusions, also if you're making a product, this is one of my finished products, and they look really pretty, so they're aesthetically pleasing. You want to make sure that you have dried herbs, and that, like I said, it's good to use a mixture of both. Herbal infusions, the best kind of products, I would say you can use them in I would say in any product where they're going to be minimal, or just as in the oil themselves. If you use them in a butter, I'd more so recommend essential oils, because you'll have to use a lot of this oil, which can get wasteful. And so you kind of have to decide if you want to use it, go for it, but it's just after so long, it gets hard to do. Another note, so herbal infusions are not essential oils. You can add essential oils into your herbal infusion. Sorry, I'm struggling. This is a rose. You can add essential oils into your herbal infusions, but the difference is that essential oils are a direct extract from the plant. So when you get rose or eucalyptus or any sort of essential oil. It's the oil that directly comes from the herb. When you're using your infusion, as you can see, I've used safflower oil, so it's a mixture. It's not the exact rose oil itself. So essential oils are more powerful and concentrated, but these oil infusions are also fantastic. It just depends on what kind of craft you're using. So I'm all for using both. Let's go ahead and get into making this lovely oil that we have here, and let's see how we do it. Okay, so here we are ready to do our herbal infusion. You can do them in prettier jars. This one, I'm gonna also use this specifically for photography, but as you can see, this is a nice looking jar. Some of the jars and you wanna make sure the lid is secure, but like I said, I'm doing this for photography reasons, so this is gonna be our jar. You can also use jars with more secure lids. You can do them like this. You can have your oil infusion in a dropper bottle as well. And then the most recommended for like bigger ones or some of your more powerful tinctures, or sorry, herbal infusions, is going to be your amber glass jar, okay? Those are gonna protect the herbs and properties the most. So the ingredients I'm gonna be using, now, another thing to discuss really quick that's regarding the ingredients. You wanna make sure that when you select your carrier oil, that you are selecting one, depending on what you use it for. As a business, I recommend getting ones that are a little bit less expensive. For example, my go-to and one that I'm going to use today is safflower oil. You can also use olive oil. It depends on also how you're going to use them and how you're going to recommend your clients to use them. If you're going to do a facial oil, I recommend lighter oils like safflower, and sometimes fractioned coconut oil is okay. For jojoba, even though it is great for the face, it can be double or triple the price. So that's something to consider when you are making your oils. And another thing to consider also, and if you're doing body oils, like I said, I have one that was infused in olive oil. That one's a little bit more moisturizing, but it can be on the skin for longer, which I wouldn't, or I say it can take longer to absorb into the skin. So I more so recommend that for the body. So just kind of pick your carrier oil based on the properties, accessibility, and pricing. And unless you want to make a luxury oil, like if you want to do an infused black seed, by all means, go for it. Just kind of know your purpose and what you're picking them for. So as I stated, I'm going to be using safflower oil, vitamin E oil. There are lots of different kinds out there. You want to get a concentrated kind, which is going to look like this kind of amber color, okay? I'm also going to be adding in essential oil. You can do fragrances. I would more so recommend doing fragrances in your finished product. If you want to have that as your signature and have it smelling a certain way, I would just leave this strictly like the most natural plant matter items. And then I'm going to be doing a rose infusion, so I'm going to do dried rose petals. Huge emphasis on dried, you guys. Make sure that if you are going to be using plant matter, any plant matter, it needs to be 100% dried. Otherwise, the water from the plants can get into your mixture. They will get into your mixture because they are in there. And then it'll cause your mixture to go rancid and spoil. And so it'll smell nasty, it'll start molding, and you don't want that. Also, as I'm gonna keep talking as I'm making this, okay? It's important to note that certain oils have longer shelf lives than others, and that's gonna determine the shelf life of your product here. Now, since I'm not using wide mouth, generally you could dump the roses in here. Let me see. But let me see. Using a funnel or a wide mouth type of jar might be easier for you. I'm gonna try to fill this up to a pretty good amount. And that would look like a pretty picture right there. Kind of see these things as a photographer as well. But yes, so they must be dried. And like I said, there's a few ways of infusing. We'll jump into that in just a second here. I'm gonna get this filled. I'm gonna be adding just a few drops of vitamin E. You don't need a whole lot. Well, I'll add that after I add the safflower at the very end. So I'm gonna fill it. It looks gorgeous with roses, by the way. Okay, filled it pretty high. You don't need a whole lot of vitamin E. A couple drops usually does the trick. And it just helps to keep it more fresh for longer. Vitamin E is not a preservative, however. I will give you that disclaimer right now. Okay. And then we have just a couple drops of rose. This is a concentrate. Usually it takes thousands of plants, so thousands of like rose petals to have made just a small bottle like this, which is how powerful your essential oils are and why you use them by the drop. So by the time this is done infusing, this is going to be a very powerful little herbal mixture. And that's how you make an herbal infusion. And if you have bought any of my recipes or formulas, this is basically the same principle, same thing that you would do if you're making like the rose hip nectar, if you're doing the, what is it called? The rose, aloe vera, and witch hazel toner roller, the oil. And just to show you guys the contrast of when something starts versus several weeks later. So as you can see, these are both the exact same mixtures. One is that nice golden yellow. This means that your infusion is complete or close to it. Sometimes it can get even more golden than that. And then versus when it starts. So you can definitely see the properties of the extract in our little friend over here in the bigger jar. Lighter, almost translucent, clear, same exact oils, just over time. So there's two methods of infusion when it comes to these oils. The first method of infusion, and the one that I recommend that I like to use the most, does take more time. It can take anywhere between 6 to 12 weeks, even longer. You can let them infuse for a longer time. The more they're aged, the more powerful, the more properties they have. And that one, basically, like I said, you fill your jar, and then what you would do is you would let these hang out outside for a few hours a day, and let the sun help them infuse slowly into, help the flower slowly infuse into the oil, the properties. Another method that you can use, and I'll be very specific when I say you need to use a crock pot with water in it. You put it on its lowest setting, and then you put your infusion, such as like this, just in the middle, water around it, and you put it on the lowest setting and let it heat for about, I want to say, 24 hours. You have to babysit it to make sure you're not having any hazards with the heat or anything like that. And 24 hours to 48 hours. And it's a faster time that gets it done. It's the lowest form of heat that you can use. Do not use a stovetop burner. Those burn hotter. It will burn out some of the properties. And I know, for example, when I first started, I would always think, oh, heat's bad. Heat is not always bad. Sometimes heat, when it comes to herbs, heating and drying are ways of activating the plant properties. So I highly recommend either one. Using the lowest form of heat, it's okay. It's not going to kill the properties in your herbs. They actually need it to help extract them, the same way that you would make a hot tea. It helps to bring those oils out, but you don't want too much to where it will kill them. So there's a balance of how much you have to use, which is why mostly I would just recommend using the solar infusion. It takes longer, but it's very, very well worth it. I've done tons of these. I love doing the sun infusion. So that concludes how to make our infusion for the oils, okay? In a few weeks, this will be nice and golden, just like our other friend over there, and it's gonna have those nice rose properties. Whenever you store it in a jar, if you're gonna sell them, or even just for yourself, because we like pretty products too, is you put some of the herbs, the roses, in your bottle, and you just let them continuously infuse over time, even when your customers have them. It's awesome. All right, so let me know if you have any questions, comments, if this video was helpful, if it wasn't. I love all feedback. And if you make these herbal infusions, let me see them. I want to see how they turn out, okay? All right, I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.